Okay. Now let's look at the preventative side of things a little bit. One with youth and some that are kind of older. When I talk about the ones that are older, now I
Hmm.
received this, I didn't check this, so I don't know. But what this person was saying that 55% of the people that are in, what do you say, or 55% who are homeless come from the foster care system because once they get to be 19, they age out and they basically have nowhere to go and they really don't have that much of a career ahead of them. Would it be possible, or would you support the city looking at hiring some of these people as they're getting older to find out through the provincial government who they are and to hire them in some kind of maintenance work?
Eric, why aren't we talking about the 100 kids that are living on the street now?
Well, we're going to get there.
Okay, because those kids that are living on the street now have been forced out of foster care, have been forced out of homes that they thought they were loved and cared for in, and they're living on the street. And we need to understand those people are vulnerable right now, not down the road. They're vulnerable right now, and some of them aren't as old as 19. Some of them are much younger. So, you know what? I think there is a way that we can work with that and satisfy that. I think, and I mentioned it earlier, the Enviro team and what they do. I can tell you right now that it has taken people from John Howard, or sorry, not John Howard, Harvest House, and it has given these people apartments, giving these people a life back because they're working and they're cleaning and they're engaged back again with the community. Those are the opportunities that we should be looking at. But let's also talk about lawn mowing as an example,
Hmm.
or things along
Mm-hmm.
this line that I did when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
When I came out of high school or when I was in high school, I went on a lawn mowing crew. I applied, I got the job, and away I went. There is ways that we can work with the people. The question becomes, how do we know who these are, and
Mm-hmm.
how do we work with them, and how do they actually, if they want to work, if they want to be involved, and they want to help out, then I'm all for that.
Okay. Good. Going a little bit further back, you'd mentioned
Mhm.
yourself like kids that are even younger that are on the street now, or the ones. Well, I remember talking to the superintendent of the Anglophonia School District, not the one that's there now, but the one before, and he said anecdotally, it seems when kids are around 9, 10, 11, 12 years old is when they kind of go off the rails. It's that time where their parents, perhaps if they're, if they're going to get divorced, they get divorced around that time. He says, if we could just like put a net around them at that age, just kind of hold on to them until they get over that hump, they'd be so much better off.
Mm,
So we
I agree.
obviously we can't do that. It's illegal. So and we don't have a catch and release program for kids like that. But we do have organizations, as you mentioned, Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, these type of
Mhm.
things that engage kids to. Would you support giving more money or more programming or helping them to expand to be able to service more of these kids to try and keep them on the rails until they get over that hump?
Oh, 100%. I was first appointed to the Boys and Girls Club a number of years ago. I automatically increased their budget amount through the approval budget, of council. What I can dream of is satellite locations of Boys and Girls Clubs across the city. And I'll give you one example, and the one example is going to be in the East End, where there's a building that's privately owned by a group of volunteers that run it as a bingo hall. And there's a new pool there. There's Jumpstart I negotiated with for the basketball courts and the multi-use courts that are there. We put a new playground in. We put a trail system, and there's a prime location to help these kids because I can tell you right now, our current BGC is busting at the seams,
Hmm.
and that's only one location that I can think of. But I'm talking about doing multiple locations throughout the city so that we can get these, to your point, put a net around them. Can't do that. But to encourage them to get there so that they can build friendships, build communications with their peers, and get education while they're there. Because some of them are getting a lot of education while they're there, but yet they're having fun while they do it. And they don't even realize. And my dream, my end goal dream in my first term would be to bring an East End pool to that Boys and Girls Club lot and behind it, and help satisfy those kids that are in that neighborhood because that's a very challenged neighborhood.
Hmm.
But at the same time, we need to look at branching out and putting more services for youth across the city that can't get there. When we have to, as a BGC, have to go out and buy buses every so years so many years because we wear them out,
Mm.
because we're going across the city to pick up kids and do this with kids. I mean, I would encourage any of your viewers to drop by to see BGC currently to see what it's up against. And I think they'd understand and support my vision.
I think it's a great idea. The pool behind there is a perfect spot for it.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it would be a copy of what we have in the East End, which is
Mm.
washrooms, solar generated heating system, and a lifeguard, I don't know what you call it, a lifeguard office or a
Station.
station. Okay, thank you. Yeah. But that's the cookie cutter. You just brought that and you drop it there and you do it. And imagine the youth that could benefit from that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
This wasn't on the list, and I was kind of surprised that nobody had brought it up, but I did hear it on the radio, and I thought it's important to talk about. And that is active transportation or public transportation. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. Some things just aren't practical, but just anyway. What were your thoughts on that?
Okay, so let's back up as I look at a picture of Moncton back in the day. That was back in a long time ago. So we need to understand there are areas that are going to be infrastructure challenged. Like Mountain Road is an example. Okay, like
Hmm.
sidewalks on both sides. You got manhole covers in a bike lane. Well, the manhole cover's been there for years, and then they paint a line and they put a bike lane.
Hmm.
Well, the biker's got to go around that. Like that's not proper layout for a bike lane. There's too much risk involved. Quite honestly, we need to focus on public transit because our public transit has grown and the people there working there are doing a great job getting everybody in and around. But we need to look at growing that, enlarging that, find efficient routes to do it. When it comes around to biking, walking, or scootering is the new thing in and around Moncton.
Mm.
We need separate from our current infrastructure. Have a separate infrastructure for bikes or rollerblading or scootering or something along that line. Like Elmwood Drive is an example. We have a multi-use trail out there and it's used. I mean, just today I was going out to check one of my signs and the kids from Moncton High were on the multi-use trail on their bike. Rather than being on the actual highway, they're
Hmm.
on a separated trail.
Right.
And I think that's what we need to look at going from the north end all the way down through to downtown. I know everybody loves that route, but let's get it off of the main infrastructure and get it on its own.
Is there room for that though?
Not in certain areas, there's definitely not room for that. Mountain Road is a great example of it, right?
Yeah.
But when we look at developing communities and new neighborhoods throughout the city, we should be planning that into the process instead of just building a road and saying we're going to put a sidewalk on the left and a sidewalk on the right. Let's say, okay, put a multi-use trail on either side. I don't care, but let's also service it in the wintertime so that people can use it in the wintertime as well.
Okay. And so with the public transportation though, with buses, so
Hmm?
does that just entail getting more buses, or what do you think? Like,
Unfortunately, that's what it is,
yeah.
and that's a big ticket item for council to approve and buy.
Mm.
But that's where the federal government comes in. They do have initiatives, they have funding, and they will help support additional buses. The challenge for city council and for the taxpayer that's watching this is the maintenance and everything
Mm.
that happens after the bus is purchased,
Ah.
right? New fares,
Hmm.
maintenance on the bus, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on. Well, that comes out of us as the tax base.
All right. Well, that's a good segue. That with all these ideas that we're talking about today, who pays for it? How is that going to be
Okay.
covered?
Well, that's simple. City council makes all their revenue comes in from property tax. Now, I want to clarify this. It's the property tax rate that we set. It is not your assessment. Your assessment is set by the province of New Brunswick. Service New Brunswick sets your assessment. The city of Moncton sets the tax rate. Now, we've seen assessments go up as high as 40 to 60%
Mm.
in the last number of years. City council has lowered their tax rate to offset that increase. Now, when we lower our tax rate and you have an increase in assessment, we make less money. And unfortunately, we need to balance our budget every year. So at the end of every year, we cannot run a deficit. We need to be balanced and we need to work within our tax rate and what we collect based on the property assessment.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's what would pay for it. Now, if you're talking public safety, that's a different subject, I'm going to say, because as you know, I've pushed the province of New Brunswick to change the Motor Vehicle Act to allow a vehicle to be a plate and a registered vehicle to be identified and ticketed if we put in red light cameras or traffic control cameras.
Hmm.
A lot of these people are going to say, "Oh no, I'm opposed to that. It's Big Brother, you're whatever." Well, number one is it's a user pay system because you run the red light or you block the intersection and a medic can't get through or a fire truck can't get through, you're responsible. There's no gray area there whatsoever.
Hmm.
Then what we could do is we could take the money that we generate from that and put it into public safety, put it into fire. I'm surprised that nobody brought up fire department.
Mm, yeah,
You
nobody did.
know, no, in the $200 million, investment that we need to make, how do we pay for that? We got to pay for that over 15 years. Well, here's another way to help pay for it. Here's another way to help pay for for policing, right? Take that from the budget, and now you actually have another revenue to generate.
Well, to your point with the fire department, they are woefully understaffed for the growth of the city.
Yes.
What are the plans to handle that?
Well, they have done a report themselves, and they presented it to council. So we are currently going through that through the financing department to see exactly how many of those initiatives we can carry out within the next 10 to 15 years based on the budget.
Hmm.
So there are going to be some items that are going to have to be delayed or postponed so that we can get this up to speed because we have not paid attention to this in the last since 2016.
Okay. Where do you see in the next, say, 5, 10 years where Moncton really needs to focus?
Fire, policing, and water. That's it.
That's
Those
it.
are
No.
that's, I mean, at the end of the day, Eric, at the end of the day, your tax dollar covers policing,
Yeah.
fire, garbage pickup, snow removal, sidewalk cleaning in the winter,
Hmm.
recreational, water, sewer. Like,
Yeah.
we can't do much more without more money,
Right.
right? And everybody wants more. That's the reason why we need to focus on the key areas: fire, policing, and water. Let's make sure that those are up to speed and where they have to be.